What am I saying again?
This is MPW.
MPW.
The podcast.
With your host,
Xylo Aria. Cool.
A podcast about music production
for the everyday musician,
where we learn from experienced studio engineers and each other.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the MPW Podcast. I'm your host, Xylo Aria, and today we are talking to the incredible Maria Elisa Ayerbe. So Maria is an audio engineer, a mixer, and a producer who has worked on numerous Grammy-nominated albums and has also worked with artists including Mary J. Blige, Ricky Martin, and Xylo. She also runs a music label called South Mountain Music and is the board governor and chair for the producers and engineers wing of the Recording Academy in Florida. And you've also been a professor. You've just done it all, Maria.
I am tired.
Oh, that's all right. I mean, we were just talking about it, that it's good to be busy at this time. So I'm sure you never get bored of doing nothing. So that's great.
Thank you.
So tell me, what's your day been like? Are you towards the end of the day and what have you gotten up to?
Oh, I'm definitely not towards the end of my day.
Oh,
it's
no?
actually, no, it's 4 p.m. here in Miami and I am halfway through. I still have to finish mixing a track. I need revisions to do on another one. And I actually need to mix a 2-hour video and also podcast by the end of the actual day. For me, the end of the day is actually midnight, like 00 of the next day. So,
Oh, no.
I'm halfway through.
When's the start of your day, Maria?
Well, this one started a little bit earlier than I'm used to. I usually start around like 10:30. This one, I began working at 9:30 because I had a meeting right in between. So I knew that my day was going to get cut off. So I try to compensate. But I'm a night owl. So I tend to work more towards like this time is my busiest time. This time is like my noon for everyone else. But yeah, I usually go to bed around like between 1 and 3 a.m. every day. It's just what I do.
Oh, my God. Well, I mean, it's funny. We've talked about this on the podcast a few times, which is just when musicians seem to work and, you know, in the middle of the night is often a thing.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite time to work on music. But after a while, I feel like it really takes a toll on me, you know, 2-3 weeks of 2 a.m.s. But I guess your body clock's just become accustomed to that.
Yeah, and actually for me, I've never become accustomed to anything else but this because I am naturally like this. I would always go to sleep really late, even when I was in high school. And it's been really hard. I come from Colombia in South America, and because my country is very close to the equator, like actually sunset is pretty close to 6 a.m. So people are very early risers and life begins at 7 a.m. in Colombia. And that was horrible for me. I couldn't do it because I'd be up until 1:30 and I can't fall asleep easily. So this is better. So if I can control and just be normal, this is my normal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, you're in the right field then, Maria.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, right. Okay, cool. So, yeah, we're talking about kind of connection with music for a producer. And I actually contacted you after seeing this one post on your Instagram where you were talking about the importance of kind of connecting with the music and all that when you're working on it, which I would love to get into. But before we do that, I would love to hear your background in your journey of music and how you got to where you are. If you want to give us a summary.
A summary, yes, because it's long.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, well, I started playing guitar when I was 11. Before that, I used to play the recorder, but I actually, you know, like the flute recorder, but I actually got like most people play it, but I actually got really good. And I was like a part of a recorder choir. Like I would stay after school. Like that's how I learned to read music. So I went a little bit further than everybody else does. And then I'm old, okay? So when I heard
Don't look it.
when I heard Nirvana's Unplugged, I just got blown away and I wanted to learn all the guitar parts. And because when I heard that stripped down version, I thought like, I want to learn how to play this. And I grabbed my dad's guitar. I had no idea. I started playing. So obviously it was totally out of tune because he just had it hanging on a wall. I tuned it myself, however I found. And then now I think about it, probably had been fifths. And I figure out a way to play everything with just one finger. And I learned how to play it. Then like after 6 months, my parents were like, yeah, we should just pay her some actual lessons. So I learned how to play guitar, and I played guitar for a very long time. Then I figured out that I was actually able to sing in tune. So that was like a good combo,
Yeah.
right? And I kept doing that for a while I was a teenager. And then once I was about to make my mind of what to do for college, I knew that I've never been an actual like singer-songwriter. That is not what I do. I don't like to just be the star or the front person of a band. And I didn't find myself becoming like a performer of any sort. So then it was my mom who actually suggested, because my mom worked in television and she did radio and a lot of things when she was bringing me up. So she was the one like, why don't you become like a record producer, an engineer? You can actually go to school for that. And I'm like, what? Like, I didn't know you could actually go to school for that. And she's like, yeah, you're actually really good at piecing things together and getting things moving and going. And you're also really good at like taking apart a cassette player and fixing it and replacing things like. And I thought, like, that's actually a great combo. Like, I am handy with technology and I'm also good at, like, making music, but not necessarily as a performer or a composer. So that was a good call. And so I went immediately to audio school. I started in Chile. And then after 2.5 years, I decided I actually wanted to just have a music degree. So I went back to Colombia and found a program in Colombia which has a bachelor in music. So you study and you graduate like everyone else and you get all the same classes as any other musician, but the emphasis is audio engineering instead of an instrument or composing, conducting or whatever. So I ended up graduating from that program. And parallel to that, I was already working with bands and producing people and recording everyone. I would record all of my friends for fun or for assignment or for whatever, but I'd be the first one doing that, collaborating with people. Then I got the chance to assist on a big production that was made for Bogota's Philharmonic Orchestra. And that's how I actually, like, I'd been experimenting with classical music recording, but then that was my way in. And I got a chance to get my first big credit doing that recording. And then after that, this was before I graduated. So once I graduated, I had that experience and I kept working in the classical field. And parallel to that, I found an internship at a post-production studio for sound design and dialogue editing and just audio post-production for television and film. So that kept going. And I worked on several television series and films, national and international films. I also got the chance to, after that, I was audio supervisor for a reality show. So I was doing all the television live stuff related and post-production. And parallel to that, I kept producing. I started mixing. Now people started calling me for mixing and actually started paying me to mix. So that's when I'm like, oh, it's not like I was mixing the stuff that I produced or recorded, but I was actually getting paid to just mix. So that's when that's where I say I've been mixing since this point, because actually somebody picked up the phone and called me, do you want to mix this? How much you charge? And I was like, I have no idea. But that's how it began. And it was actually a big credit with a big artist who's now like famous in all Latin America. So that was fun. And
Awesome.
yeah, so then when that happened, I decided that Colombian local music industry was still pretty hard for women. There was nobody doing what I wanted to do, because eventually I decided I really wanted to be a record producer. I wanted to be a mixing engineer. And it was tough. And it was tough for me because like there were no potential outlets for me to work on, or the bands wouldn't trust me a lot. Like it was hard. It was hard. And there was nobody like me, like a woman, doing that. So I decided to move to Nashville. I decided to get, I was lucky to get a scholarship, and I entered a program close to Nashville I was doing my master's in recording, and it was a 3-year program, and I was lucky to get that scholarship. And as I was a scholar on the scholarship, I was also a professor. Oh, by the way, I forgot. Let's back up a little bit. While I was doing all of that, I was also an audio professor. So I started as a tutor. Yeah. So I started as a tutor while I was in college in Columbia. And then once I graduated, like a couple of months after or so, I got like an actual job as an audio professor at a university. Later, an audio institute also hired me. So with that experience, that's how I managed to get my scholarship as a graduate teacher assistant at this other program in Nashville. So I kept being an audio instructor over there, but I was also working for the university. I then got experience in remote production for trucks. So I was a audio engineer inside of a mobile truck, which was super fun. And because I already had all this experience with live TV. It was just moving it into a truck and then just rolling, right? But it was basically the same thing. Okay. It was the same vibe as doing live television anyway. So I did that. I also started working at a studio. I kept having mixing clients from Colombia, and then I started working with other local bands and just moving around. And then when I eventually graduated from the program, it wasn't really easy for me, obviously, to find a steady job. I was required to have a steady job with a contract, especially being an international. For me in order to stay, I needed to sort out my immigration thing. So being a woman, Latina in Nashville, where it's 100% country, it's not a really good combo, you know. They're not ready for that yet. So yeah. So I visited Miami, and a couple of times I came down here. Once, I don't remember. And then I met some people, and I noticed that it was a much better place for me to thrive, because eventually that's what you want to do. You want to thrive. You want to be at a place where like you can be comfortable and you're not fighting against the current, and you're just they're letting you do the work, and you're letting your work speak for itself. So I ended up moving to Miami, and that's it. That I met incredible people. I've been lucky to work with immense talents and all sorts of talents, and now I am 100% dedicated to do this.
Wow. I love that. And I really love the fact that that was kind of suggested as a career path by your mum.
Yeah.
And, you know, and she was involved in something similar, but in film or working in film or TV. So that's really nice.
Yeah. If she hadn't suggested it, I would have just completely ignored. Because I'm like, there's actually people that do that. Like, and I knew there was people who would do that, because my mom, while I was growing up, she would produce documentaries, and then she'd be like, do you want to see a recording studio? I'd be like, yeah, cool. And then she'll trick me into actually recording voiceovers for her documentaries, the ones that she was producing. And I'd be like, I thought I was coming to visit. And she was like, yeah, you can also do like, read those lines. And then I'll be like reading lines. Like, so she would trick me into that. That was really funny. So, wow. I remember like me being inside of the booth, like with a paper reading about this story of this poor child in Colombia who needed support for donations, because my mom used to work for UNICEF for a very long time. And then I'd be reading that in English, and I also knew a little bit of French, so I would be reading that in French, and in Spanish it would be like triple combo. And then I wouldn't get paid any money whatsoever.
Yeah. Oh no.
By my mom. And I remember obviously somebody was pushing the buttons for that, but I was too concerned with doing my own job at the moment.
Yeah, really great.
This episode is brought to you by DistroKid. Did you know that using DistroKid's Spotlight function, you can choose a track from your release to appear on a Spotlight battle? The top songs are then chosen to be featured on the DistroKid playlist with over 100,000 followers. This is a free feature for all DistroKid members. Take advantage of this awesome function and so many more using our DistroKid discount link, distrokid.com/VIP/MPW.
Today, as I mentioned, we're talking about kind of connecting with music, and I'd like to kind of talk about your process in that, and about how do you actually first start working on a track? Like, is it someone always sends music to you, and how do you find your tracks to work on?
Well, if I'm working as a producer, because I am an engineer who produces, mainly engineer who produces.
Yeah.
And I always take it I start from the beginning, meaning that usually when somebody approaches me and they ask me if I want to produce a track, the first thing that I listen to is just the song. And I actually analyze if I feel there's a connection, a potential from coming from the song, but also coming from the artist. And I usually tell, especially younger artists, it's obviously about the song. It will always be about the song because the song needs to transmit. It needs to tell a story.
Yeah.
There needs to be something in there that is worth just moving forward, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then also it's about the artist, and it's also about the connection with the artist and the connection that the artist has with the song, which is something that also can be missing out, right?
Right.
So I analyze all of that, and then my approach is just very organic through the engineering process. So if the artist comes with a demo, I'll obviously help the artist get to a point where like we are satisfied with the song structure, the lyrics are in the right place, the harmonies in the right place. Because like luckily I have the chops for that, which is something that not a lot of engineers have. So I have the abilities to do that. So once there's a level of satisfaction, then I just start recording, because within the recording process is like you're able to piece out. So then the recording process also becomes part of the production process, obviously, when you're changing structure, flipping things here and there, moving elements here and there, and then just trying to figure out how the arrangement is going to go. So maybe just setting up like a temp track where you can have vibe along what's going on, or if there is a budget and the time and the right place, just call musicians right away and start laying tracks and then just handpicking what best works for the song. And it grows up very organically. I am not a laptop producer. That's one thing that I am very skilled with the engineering, but I suck as a programmer. I don't know. It's just something, it makes me like, I want to shoot my foot. I can't, I don't have the patience every time and I am from the generation who grew up with Reason, with the very first instances of Fruity Loops and all of those softwares. And I never had the patience to do that, ever.
Right.
I see like a drum track or one of those drum machines, and I'm just like, I'm bored already. And I know that's something that some other people are highly passionate about. So when it comes down to if the song is going to be, especially for Latin and pop music, everything is laptop produced. So if I know that's going to be how the production will go, I'll call somebody else who I know is very passionate about that, and I'll co-produce the track with that person. And like, I am the person who would literally record a chair. Like, I've performed percussion beats on a chair with a couple of sticks.
That's awesome.
I would do that. So, and I've recorded the craziest things ever, the craziest spots ever, the craziest sounds ever. Because if I feel that adds on to the track, then I will do it, and then you will never be able to find it out. But if I can avoid programming something and just getting it from somewhere else, I'll do it. But yeah, it's just I'm a fixer, so I'll find a way just to make it happen. And that's number one rule of producing, right?
Yeah, definitely. So you use DAWs more as a recording tool then, I guess, rather than, using that in a similar way to producers and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I use DAWs as like a way to rearrange and move elements around. And obviously everything that I am very, although I've learned and I have taught MIDI for a very long time. I stay away from that world. I don't like it. If I have to do it, I'll join.
Yeah.
But I know there's people who actually live in that world and have developed a taste to run filters and create LFOs and all of that. So why not working with someone who actually has that, and I'll do everything else.
Yeah, totally. So all of that you will do via analog for your mixing and that kind of thing?
Via analog, meaning that if I use like analog gear and all that stuff?
Yeah.
Well, when it comes down to it, but no, actually, well, you can see my studio here right now. At my studio. We're connecting via Zoom, and like, no, I actually mix in the box. I've mixed in consoles before several times, but I am in the box. Then again, one thing is actually the production when you're actually producing stuff and getting virtual instruments and programming MIDI and recording all of that. And then there's the other process where you are moving elements here and there, but it's physical audio that I'm flipping around, and I actually do a lot of sound design. Being a sound designer myself, I like to mess up sounds and process them and chop them and all of that, but on the audio waveform domain as opposed to the MIDI or the virtual instruments. That is not my strength. I am more of a traditional producer in that regard.
And yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge point of power in knowing what your strengths are and not, spending loads of time on something that you don't like or someone can do better more quickly. So
absolutely. And then you only have so much time to specialize yourself in something. I've specialized myself in sound design and sound post-production, and I've specialized myself in classical recording and in studio recording and studio mixing. Like, that's it. Like, I also track really great vocals, being a singer who actually had several years of vocal training. And so I'm actually really good in vocal recording, in vocal production. So then it's like, this is where I stop, and this is where other people join in, and people who have spent their entire lives just programming on a laptop.
Totally. No, fair enough. So when you are producing an artist and a song, what kind of decisions are impacted by your connection with the track and what you want to create or feel in the audience?
All of the decisions are connected to that. Absolutely, all of them. Like, coming from, for example, how comfortable the artist feels singing about a certain subject. Let's just start from the basics. Like, is that artist like really in love with the person who's saying like the track is about, it's a love song, and sometimes you're like, I'm not buying that you're in love with this person, or I'm not buying that you're actually brokenhearted about the situation. Like that's number one rule. Is the artist actually transmitting the message that is embedded on the lyrics of the song?
Yeah.
So from that all the way to like, is the song in the right range for the vocal performance? Will something benefit that artist better if we switch tonalities or we do something interesting with the harmony so that it falls onto a more comfortable range? And then all the way till like, what are the artist's influence? Where does this artist come from? Or what does this artist like in terms of like, you can be born at a certain place, but you can like certain other things that have nothing to do. So how much you want to connect geographically, where this artist come from and how it will sound, and everything. Everything comes from those connections that are not theoretically just notes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, wow. And actually, coming back to what you said about an artist not maybe translating what they are talking about in their song and their lyrics. So how do you get this out of them? How do you put them back in that place where they can feel that thing that they're talking about?
Right. Well, the first question is like, do they actually feel those things they're saying? And it's like, it's a really important thing. And if not, then it's a matter of like when you're actually tracking the song, if the artist wrote the song, which is another thing, because an artist and performer could have not written those lyrics. So then it's like you're just having an open conversation. And I think that's what, not that I want to say that being a woman makes you this or that, because I don't like that. I don't like how we are categorized as being more sentimental or being more just delicate or whatever. But being a woman, you are very intuitive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And by being very intuitive is really easy for us to ask the right question so you can put the artist on the right mindset when it comes down to connecting with the lyric that they're singing. So it's about being honest. It's about just having a conversation about it. Like, I don't know. For example, one time I was recording this really amazing singer, and I can't remember what we were. It was like a jazz standard, and she was all cluttered up. And it's a great gospel singer with a huge voice. I know this would be the perfect track for her, something that she could sing while she was asleep, basically, and she was like all choked up. And I'm like, what's going on with you? I broke up with my boyfriend. And I'm like, okay, come down to the control room. I'll get us some coffee. Let's talk about it. What's up? What happened? And then it's like, all right, we have decided that the guy is an asshole and this song is about partying. Get it? And then you've transformed the situation where you've empowered the artist by just getting that person into the right mode, and then somehow on the back of your head you're trying to connect them with whatever they have to sing about.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, like when you go to college and you're studying about production, surely you don't talk about all this stuff, or do you? Like all of the, in a way, psychological things that you need to know about.
Yeah, no, and that is something that people don't discuss. They don't never talk about it, especially and I'd say there's a big disconnect coming from all audio schools and having the experience of being an audio instructor who has taught many lessons for all over the Americas. I haven't left the Americas yet. maybe one day. Yeah. But I know for a fact that at least over here, most of the audio instructors don't actually have a real job and don't actually have a foot on the industry. So there's a difference in the ones that do and the ones that don't. And obviously when you're not at the studio producing music, getting those things going on, you don't really know that is the main key for a great performance. It's like every time Adele sings those songs, you really feel like she was just literally dumped right now, right?
Yes, definitely.
That is exactly. So that is her ability besides being just an amazing vocal performer. And behind that, there certainly is a great producer, a great group of producers who were able to recognize that from her and exploit that from her. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah, for sure. And like some other producers that we've spoken to on this podcast have mentioned that you, as a producer, you're just between so many different people, whether it's the artist, whether it's the label or the mixing engineer, and you need to have those skills to be able to keep everyone happy in a way.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Once you've gotten what you need from the artist, then it's just that juggling that you have to do with everyone just to make sure that everyone is satisfied and everything is under budget and that you're getting things on time and that you've taken care of your people. That's the other thing. Like as a producer, you are working with so many people. So you got to make sure that everyone gets paid, everyone gets recognized, everyone gets the proper credit for what they've done, and everyone is just taken care of, because the next time you're going to be needing them and you want them again on your team, or maybe the next time they will call you instead.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing that you mentioned before, I mean, on the incredible singer who'd broken up with her boyfriend and she was having a terrible day, like, and she has and I don't know what the arrangement was, but obviously she has time with you that day and in this studio to get this performance out. And I work mainly out of my home studio. And one reservation for me on hiring, an expensive place, an expensive recording engineer, whatever to work out of is that thing of, you have 4 hours or whatever it is, 8 hours to get what it is you need to get out. And sometimes, you have an off day, like your voice is not feeling the best or whatever, and it feels like a lot to invest to get everything you need in that time. What would you say to anyone that has that sort of fear, and is there a way around that?
Yeah, no, that is actually a great point and a great question, because that day I actually had a 4-hour session booked on that studio. So I was, after 45 minutes of working with her, I realized there's something going on in here that she's not telling me, but because she feels committed to finishing this song with me, she is trying to do her best, but her best is being blocked by something else. So that's where I was just like, what is going on? Are you okay? Do you want water? Do you want to take like a quick bathroom break? Like trying just to understand where this whole thing is coming from until I finally nail it. And she's like, I just broke up with my boyfriend. But
yeah.
But I think that is and you probably have heard that from everyone that you have interviewed before, but it's like number one thing that a producer is a psychologist. So
yeah,
and a little bit of a like a mind reader sometimes. I'd say when you are about to rent a studio, just make sure that everyone knows what they need to do, that everyone is on board, not only mentally, but physically. Like those two things are together. Like when I have a session at a studio, I'll make sure I'm calling my artist the day before. And it's like, you're not going out tonight, right? Make sure you go to bed early. Just make sure you don't eat those red beans for breakfast, right? It's like, no beer tomorrow. All of those little details, because if your artist is like underslept, underfed, tired, thirsty, everything. It's like you need a well-rested artist with the right mindset, and that is something that you don't actually need a budget for.
Yeah.
You can make sure that you can control those variables without having to spend a dime. And then it's just a matter of when you actually go to the studio, you are as prepared as possible to get it right. Because like one thing that I always do, I always get everything ready for my session the day before. Because like you have a DAW at home, if you know most studios have Pro Tools in there, just make sure you can prep your session at home or at the studio, your own personal studio, before you get there. You make sure that you have your track, you print out your vocals, you have a copy for the artist. Make sure that you've actually heard the song and you know the song, so you're not figuring out the arrangement as you go. Make sure that you bring a notepad and you have a pen where you can do notes. I mean, all of those things will only improve your performance as well, so that everything is as effective as possible. Then it is just a matter of just good luck and charm. Yeah. As everything else in life, at least you tried.
Definitely. That's it. And I guess it sounds like just preparing everything that is under your control.
Exactly.
So that you leave the least amount of things to chance. So
and that is something that you definitely learn as an intern or as an assistant for somebody else as you're growing up and as you're working for another audio engineer or for another producer. Those are the things that you are expected to do for them. So if you are that one person and you don't have an assistant and you are spending your money and you're trying to invest in this 4-hour break that you're going to get at this big studio, be your own assistant, right? And prepare as you would for somebody else. how can you take care of yourself ahead of that big recording session that you have?
For sure. It sounds like very good advice. So on that, do you actually have one piece of advice that's like your biggest takeaway from your experience to anyone that's new in production?
Yes. And I always say the same thing because I think it's nobody told me I had to learn. And that by my own personal experience. And that is that just be patient. That's it. This is a career that demands a lot. It's not easy for women. It's not for women. It's not easy for anyone, to be honest. It is a very competitive industry. It is an industry that takes a toll on your health. A lot of the times it takes a toll on your physical and your mental health. It is very demanding from all sorts of sides and possible scenarios. And it also takes a long time. And that is something that you cannot trick. You cannot trick time. You cannot trick getting experience that comes from working a lot, failing a lot, learning from those mistakes, and then just doing it all over again.
Yeah, that sounds like very good advice. And I think for not only production, but anything in the music industry, really, that patience, yeah.
Absolutely, especially production because you are in charge of everything. So, but in order to get there, in order to get all the elements right, it takes a very long time because that basically means that you need to know how everything happens inside of the industry and how to connect all of those dots and make it happen.
Yeah, no, that sounds like very good advice. And actually, what would you say has been your biggest challenge as a woman in this field? And do you have one piece of advice kind of specifically for women of something that they might come across through their career?
Yeah. So, well, obviously my biggest, thing as a woman has been my biggest challenge. Just basically being one of the very few mixing engineers or recording engineers or female producers, especially from the Latino world. Fortunately, that is changing and very fast. But it is a thing that I still have to work with all of these years. I still have, sometimes I just encounter new people that never heard of me. They don't need to, they don't have to know about me. So when I meet them, it's that immediate wall, that immediate rejection or like doubt about is she really who she says she is, or can she really handle what she says she can? And that is just something that is just very annoying and very discouraging. Yeah. But going back to the actual advice, I'd say that if you really want it, you can get it. You just got to learn how to be patient and just learn to understand that sometimes when people hurt you, it's not because they actually want to hurt you. It's just that they don't know better.
I love that. And I really do believe that no one, I mean, there are some horrible people, but most people aren't intentionally trying to be horrible, but they just don't realize maybe how they come across, especially when their view of the world has been a certain way for a long time. So
exactly. So when you learn to just move away from that, it is very liberating because then you understand it's not about you particularly.
Yeah. I love that. There's actually there's a book called The Four Agreements, which I absolutely love. Yeah, you know it. Yeah,
of course, I've read it.
Yeah, so good.
That is a great piece of advice. We should tell people that they should read that book.
Definitely.
Yeah, I actually, there was about 2 years ago, there was a conference here in Miami, and they called me over just to do the audio for the conference, and I was just like, I rarely do that, but okay. And they were like, it's actually the son of the guy who wrote the Four Agreements, who's taken upon his dad. And then I was just like, you know what? Actually, I am going to do this. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then I did Deepak Chopra, and I've done a bunch of those.
I love all of them.
Yeah. So actually read those books because, again, as we said, it's about having a really mentally strong mindset and a healthy body as well. So whatever you can do to enhance that. That is very important.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Love that. So before we finish up, Maria, I have a couple of questions from our audience for you. Yeah, so the first one is by Xylo Aria. So she said, were you formally trained in production and engineering, and how important do you think that is to succeed in this field?
I am formally trained. I actually went to two different my undergrad was 7.5 years.
Wow.
Too long because I ended up changing from one career to the other one, but always revolving around audio engineering. And then I ended up with a music degree. And then I have a 3-year master degree on recording. So yes, I am formally trained. No, I don't think that is necessary to succeed in the music industry. However, if you come from a place geographically that does not have an industry that can provide you the same amount, like the necessary training and the years that you need to learn how to be a proficient engineer or producer, then you might as well enroll yourself at a production school or an audio school and at least get formally trained to compensate for that. Obviously, it's never going to be the same as a real life experience, but it will get you further than just watching YouTube videos.
Yeah. No, that sounds...
But if you can actually travel to a bigger city or go to a city that has a music scene and where you can start working as an intern or runner and just grow in that job, great.
Yeah, cool. No, that sounds good. And we have another question by Glum Plum from Instagram. So she said, did you always know that you were going to work in audio engineering? Was there ever,
No.
No? Okay.
No, like I didn't know. As I said, like it was my mom who pointed it out and I'm like, And she was like, well, you're really good with technology. You like to put things apart and then just build them back up.
What age was that?
Well, I was like 17, just about to graduate from high school. But I always be like for example, I used to have like one of those cassette double deckers. And so I'd be like recording making my own mixtapes from one cassette to the other one. And then obviously I'd be like stopping and forward and then I'll break it and I'll open it and just fix it. And then, okay, it's working again. And then my mom would be like, cool.
That sounds great. So, yeah, that takes us to the end of our interview, Maria. So thank you so much for being part of our podcast. And it's been really lovely hearing about, everything that you've done in your career that we could in this time.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for everyone who connects in here. And just feel free to reach out to me whenever you have a question or just want to talk to me.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much. And I hope it's not, or I guess I was going to say, I hope it's not too late, but that's how you like your day. So
yeah, no, I'm going to keep going after this.
Yeah. Awesome. All right.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.